Welcome everyone to the Caravan Tour of Terror, where we tour the globe through the medium of horrific, chilling and disturbing entertainment. My name's Donald and I'm the driver on this epic voyage. Joining me at my side as always with a road atlas on his lap is my navigator Ali. Say hello, Ali.
Hello.
We're taking this puppy out on the road. So far no problems, there's a few strange noises, but I'm sure it'll be fine. We've left our homeland in Bonnie, Scotland. We've journeyed down towards Stranraer. We've got a little ferry across to Northern Ireland and we have arrived at Kilbrony Caravan Park. Look around, Ali.
It's beautiful.
Majestic.
Yeah, it is.
There's mountains, seas, and valleys, apparently. I mean, it sounds like The Lord of the Rings.
That's what the Atlas says anyway.
Why are we here, though? Well, there's a director born just a stone's throw away down in Dundalk called Aislinn Clark, and we've watched her first feature-length horror film called
The Devil's Doorway.
So, Ali, tell us about The Devil's Doorway.
Devil's Doorway is, as you said, Aislinn Clark's first feature-length film. It's a found footage horror film from 2018. Two Roman and Catholic priests, Father Thomas and Father John, they are sent to Magdalen Laundry in the 1960s to investigate a reported miracle. Upon arriving, they see that things are not quite as helpful and godly as more that Father John sees the church to be.
I'd say
Father Thomas is
yeah,
much.
just to interject slightly, they're very quick to realise, oh, this place is horrible. And like confronting the Mother Superior about it like almost immediately with pretty harsh tones.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, but you know.
Yeah, and Mother Superior has a very dismissive attitude of their accusations. She accuses them of sending the dregs of society to this laundry. Yep. And tells them to, kind of watch their backs, watch their tone.
Yeah.
And they continue on their work.
Yeah, he definitely alludes at one point that they're kind of cleaning up some church controversies and stuff like that. I'm sure she says something about some of the children that are going to be born there and stuff are children of priests and things like that. So they're told to back off.
So the two fathers continue investigating the church for a miracle, discussing both their faith and whether they believe there is a miracle. Father Thomas being the much more older, embittered, skeptical, not necessarily of his faith, at least in the first half of the movie, say, but in the actual miracle itself, having investigated many over his career and never found any. And Father John is a much younger, bright-eyed, believes in the workings of the higher powers, etc., etc. Yeah. Father Thomas has a much more mundane time, but at least in investigating the miracle and investigating what is happening in this laundry, whereas Father John is visited each night by voices and noises and disturbings outside his room that would be unexplainable otherwise.
Yeah.
And things begin to unravel as the two priests discover more of the horrors, let's say both real and supernatural, that have been taking place in the laundry. They then find a young pregnant girl who is chained up in the basement as the movie takes a darker. Hard for a dark movie to take a dark turn, but
yeah,
they find
pretty horrible.
Kathleen, a 16-year-old virgin, pregnant in the basement. They try to get her removed from this
squalor.
Yeah, it causes her pain and causes her to lash out, it seems, when she leaves the room.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the best time to jump in and maybe talk about the ending and stuff.
So, first of all, Father Thomas is played by Lalor Roddy. Did you recognise Lalor Roddy?
I did not.
You have seen him before in Grabbers. He was the drunkard Paddy.
No way!
Very different role.
Oh, he's right, straight off the bat, I'm going to say the performances in this movie are top-notch.
The Mother Superior I thought was good, and I really liked Father Thomas a lot. I mean, okay, it is a bit of a cliche, a cynical older priest kind of character. I mean, it's definitely been done before, but I just had a lot of time for him. I don't know.
Yeah,
I quite liked his monologues to camera. I was like, yeah, I really enjoy everything he's saying here. I don't know. It just did it for me.
he has a lot of energy, and I think that comes across in the performance, and I think that stops it being that stereotype.
Yeah.
I was very surprised at the moments where Father Thomas is sprinting down hallways. Really unexpected.
I mean, he could be 45 or 65. I don't know.
True, true. And one thing to note early on is that this movie is shot. I don't know if it was actually made on
It is, yeah. It's actually shot on 16mm,
and it looks great.
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
They say it is shot on 60mm. And if you listen, I didn't know if you could hear it through the whole film because it kind of sometimes gets drowned out. But you can hear the flickering of the reels behind, especially early on. You can hear the of the reels the whole time, and the audio is definitely sounds as if it's period authentic. Which is kind of good and bad, I guess, because it's kind of muffled, but it does kind of work aesthetically. But I don't know. It would have sounded weird if it was proper HD sound on top of that kind of film, I suppose. So what else are they going to do?
It's not quite 1960s quality, but yeah, definitely. I think that one's probably a post production one as opposed to
I
the
would
camera.
Say so. It would be a nightmare to record audio on old stuff. Like, I'm sure that would have been probably insurmountable amounts of problems. It's set in a Magdalene laundry, so if you don't know what a Magdalene laundry is, they were basically asylums run by Roman Catholic orders, which operated from the 18th century right up until I think 1997 or something like that was the last one closed, to house so-called fallen women. Tens of thousands of fallen women. So fallen women, I think,
it's literally any women that did not fit into society the way their family wanted or the way that town wanted. You know, pregnant women, unruly women, drunken women,
prostitutes. Also, I think. I think. From the church's standpoint, it was people that would kind of do harm to themselves, or they couldn't function in society, so they were housed there. The church kind of viewed it as a service kind of thing. Unfortunately, the church also ran it as a for-profit institution, so the classic one is they used to clean linen, which the film shows them doing here. Right from the start, like Father Thomas and Father John go in and they see these women toiling away and getting abused, and they instantly are like, obviously this is awful. I kind of felt like the movie kind of rushed into that a little bit, but they confront the Mother Superior and she's quite like, she's very defensive, as we said. She doesn't think this is actually anything to be worrying about, and they're doing a service and things like that. And that's depressingly, that is actually what a lot of the church's view on it is. Unfortunately, they're pretty unapologetic about what went on. Two nuns went on the radio in 2013, like under anonymity, and they basically said exactly what the Mother Superior says in the film, that they were providing a service and look, this is for the good of the country kind of thing, which I'm wondering if maybe the director knew about that and then kind of worked it back into the film in that way, because it does seem like I kind of thought it was a cartoonishly evil kind of attitude to take about it. But no, it's totally, they were pretty bloody horrible to them and they thought they were doing right, so that was nice to learn.
So yeah, I kind of came a wee bit from the other end from you, where I had known bits and pieces about the Magdalene
laundries. I knew very little.
There's obviously the 2002 film by Peter Mullen, The Magdalene Sisters, which is also set in the 60s, and it is a harrowing movie. One survivor who saw Peter Mullen's film said that the Magdalene Asylums were 1,000 times worse than what is actually in the movie, which is just a horrifying thought. And as I tried to do with the movies we're watching, I went into this knowing only the country of origin. And when the first thing that you're presented with is the Magdalene
Did you
laundries,
get a sinking feeling of, oh God?
A little bit. The last laundries closed in 1997. That is not that long ago. And I was very tentative going into this because you could do this movie very wrong.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Horror, like applying like a supernatural horror element to this. I don't know if it's like exploitative or if it's a way to get away from exploitation. Do you know what I mean? The Magdalene Sisters, I've not seen it, but I hear it's a very, kind of necessary portrayal. It doesn't pull its punches. It's it was widely acclaimed. But then doing this the horror way, it kind of, you run the risk of doing something like, there was a movie released a year or two ago starring Hilary Duff called like The Sharon Tate Murder, and it was kind of reviled in the press as exploitative of a real life murder of Sharon Tate in a way that Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood wasn't. It's very drawing on these kind of real life things. I think horror especially, it can really, I don't know, do you think, just personally, do you think it was slightly exploitative, or do you think they got away with it?
It is a longer answer than a yes or no. I didn't come out of this movie thinking that it had severely mistreated its source matter.
That's good.
I definitely feel for the first half of the movie, the themes of culpability and the church's sweeping under the rug is very prominent and actually very well handled. The kind of sparring between the Reverend Mother and Father Thomas are some of the best scenes.
Yeah,
in
they
this
can
movie.
both act. I think they both act pretty well. And I think Lalor Roddy
definitely
really gives the role a bit of kind of righteous anger, very convincingly.
Yeah, he is definitely the driving force.
Yeah,
of
I
this
mean,
movie.
Father John is obviously the portal through which the audience views things, but I mean...
Definitely, and I will get to that soon. But I feel that as the second half starts to unravel, it loses that a bit. It loses its... It turns into a horror movie. It turns into very much a horror movie, and I feel that those themes get dropped in place of mystery, in place of wanting to just give the audience a good show.
Yeah.
And that isn't the worst thing normally. But when you're using a very recent, very horrifying tragedy, it can just sit a bit discomfortable.
So it's potentially up for debate.
I definitely don't think it was bad portrayal. I don't think anyone should think Aisling Clarke does not have at least some respect and reverence.
Oh, I think she's got. I think she's actually. So in the interviews I read, I think she does have a lot of respect for it. I think it's just a question of whether you can do it justice in a. I'm sure her intentions were totally honourable. Just whether you can do it justice in this genre. That's the only thing that can sometimes be a bit kind of woolly, and it is up for interpretation.
Yeah. And I think it's the trappings that end up causing the most disservice of the genre.
Father John, the spookies that begin with Father John are hearing children's voices at night and seeing dead children.
Wandering the hallways.
Yeah, seeing a ghostly figure there. Go on the next. I don't want to get into the review portion of it. It does kind of change gears after the initial presentation of the laundry and the attitudes towards it, and then like you say, boom, we're into horror now. I think this was characterized by, there was some really recent controversies about these laundries, and they did find a lot of unmarked graves of children, unfortunately. So it's because I was ignorant of it, I kind of didn't get what they were doing initially with the whole, I mean, scary children, something that's been done in horror a lot for a long time, but actually this film's drawing on totally real things to do it, which I felt was kind of a shame that through my ignorance I didn't actually realize that, and I kind of thought it was derivative, which, I mean, okay, maybe stylistically it is, but it actually got a really proper foundation and reason to do that, which only came to me later after I kind of learned a bit more about the subject matter kind of thing.
Yeah, and it does, between those conversations of the Reverend and the Mother Superior, they do have allusions to that, but again, you can be really drawn in by the stereotype of the children of some of these scenes, so the ignorance is part of it, and it is on the side of the director to put that information forward. You can use these tropes because you do have good reasoning behind it, but you do need to justify it to your audience who, as you like you, who is not as versed in this as the director is.
Yeah.
And I did think that some of the children's singing sounded a bit dubbed. It sounded quite out of the
Yeah,
movie.
that's probably, yeah, you're right. I mean,
that is obviously just a production
Yeah.
side critique, but yeah, I just felt I was listening to it and I was like, it just sounds like someone's playing a cassette in the
yeah,
room he's in. The singing is so. If you played like stereotype children singing
spooky
horror,
children,
this
yeah,
is what would
spooky
come
children
up.
singing and spooky.
It was on the nose with
Yeah,
that.
that's the problem with it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a wee bit too much of
I,
that
I think
trope.
I could see what she was going for. That was much more of a true life thing than just done for shock value or kind of for yeah,
Genre flair.
cliche genre stuff. Yeah. So, do you want to go into spoilers?
Yeah, I mean we've kind of discussed the first half
Yeah.
of the movie. It is a lot.
It's a game of two halves.
It really, oh god, it really is. The first half is very much the two priests kind of getting to know each other, getting to know the place, discussing their faiths, and
Doing their investigation.
doing their
Which
investigation.
for Father
And you have-
Thomas, for Father Thomas is just wearing these steampunk glasses and scratching away at. So I don't think we mentioned the miracle is a statue crying blood. So he's scratching away at the statue crying blood, and he does that for 2 days, and he's doing it to like look for, what does he say? It's like a contraption or something that's letting the blood come out. I was like, how long does it take you in this kind of detail to look at? I thought it was a weird editing thing, but no, he definitely meant, like, later on he mentions, stuff that happened last night. So I was like, God, they've it's just been standing at the statue the whole time. My Christ.
Yeah, and it kind of kicks off when the second half, if you will, kicks off when the statue starts crying blood, and all the statues start crying blood.
Yeah. This is getting hairy, but Father Thomas, he's just like, nah, I'm sure it's some kind of trick. I like a cynic in a film. I was like, I'm right there with you.
You really
Father.
do.
I wouldn't believe it either, Father Thomas. I'd need a lot more proof than this.
The two of them are very diametric in that. Like,
Yeah.
it's, Father John is ready to jump at anything being divine or holy, and Father Thomas is just like, I think he does say at one point, Father John asks him, we're very respectful, always calling him Father, by the way. Father John asks Father Thomas, so what is it you're doing when he's scratching away? And he says, I'm looking for a contraption, or I'm doing that. And John says, if you don't find it, and Thomas replies, then I just look for the next, contraption, or I'll find the next device. And he is super cynical.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure John says, what if it's a miracle? And he says, it's not going to be a miracle. And John says, why? Yeah. And Thomas says, it never is.
It never is.
I love that. I love a cynical priest. I know it's a trope, but it's still fun.
You really, I mean,
it's still
sometimes tropes are tropes for a reason, and you love yourself an old, bitter Northern Irish priest.
Lalor Roddy is just really good at doing that, and I just find his monologues to camera about, and he always through the whole film he's always talking about. So Father John will say, "Have you ever seen this before?" And he's like, "Yeah, once." Don't worry about it. Like, they find some crazy stuff, and Thomas is like, "Nah, I've seen this before in Greece. Don't worry about it." Like, I want to see the further adventures of Father Thomas, please. I want to see all his old.
Yeah, that would be a movie series I would be down with. Like, never mind Annabelle, just like get me Father Thomas and his adventures around the world.
So brave. Also, he's not flat bending it, but he's like, it's a load of old pish. By the way, John, you're being ridiculous. We're going to find out what it is. Don't worry about it. I mean, to his fault, as I'm sure we're about to get to, but just like him.
Yeah. One of the the miracles, quote unquote, start ramping up night after night. And speaking of the bravery, Father John's in his room one night and his Mary statuette starts shaking and then explodes, and Father John is horrified. At that moment, Father Thomas bursts into the room and he's like, "Come with me!" and starts sprinting down the corridor as Mary statues are exploding left and right. It is quite the scene. But as we said, things get weirder and weirder.
It starts focusing on this girl, Kathleen, in the basement, doesn't it? Yeah. They hear something at night which draws them down and kind of into the bowels of the laundry. And then they see Father Thomas like sees a nun up to mischief, I guess, or something, like run into this room, and then they run in after, and they find like
A full-on
a
satanic
full
ritual.
on underneath the laundry.
Oh no! Father Thomas explicitly says it's a black mass. He knows. Because Father Thomas has had a
Black
life.
mass has been performed here. I've seen it before in Greece. I was like, wow. But he's not fazed by it. It's just like, we're going to talk to the Mother Superior and see what she has to say about this. I was like, what the hell is she going to say about this? Jesus.
What I love is that has been performed here. It's like he smells it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what he expected the Mother Superior to say. Either he was going to say, you're an absolute fool for letting this happen, or you're the goat himself.
Yeah, but much to Father Thomas's chagrin when they lead Mother Superior back down there, it is a normal broom cupboard.
Yeah, a normal, disgusting old broom cupboard down in the basement. There's stuff already weirdly happening because they followed that nun directly into that room, did they not? They saw her going in, opened it, she wasn't there anymore, but they didn't really care about that. They were like, look, there's bloody pentagram and there's goat skulls. You can imagine exactly what this satanic altar looks like.
Yeah, just Google satanic altar.
Don't Google satanic anything. It'll never lead to good things.
Church of Satan.
As an aside, good documentary about the Church of Satan out there that you should watch. Highly recommended.
What's it called?
Oh Christ! Now you're asking. It is called.
Well, yeah, you can't offer out recommendations without a name.
It's called Hail Satan. I should have remembered that.
That is the fact that you did not remember that is absolutely
I think it's
ridiculous.
on Netflix. It's genuinely a really good documentary and well worth a watch.
We're prone to staying on track here in Caravan.
Continue.
So they find Kathleen, a 16-year-old, chained up in the basement.
They get tipped off by a nun, I think, don't they?
Yes.
But off camera, so you don't know who it is, but you just hear a nun telling them about this poor girl. That I don't even... They hear there's a poor girl chained up in the basement and they're not allowed to go down there and stuff like that.
Yeah. Kind of rumour and speculation. But turns out there is. And the movie takes I think stylistically and
hey, we're a new movie now. It's very
we are really in a new movie now.
Let's leave it open to guessing. She levitates. A body gets twisted. Her eyes go funny. What kind of movie are we in now?
It's definitely
exactly.
a possession movie.
Yeah, it turns full blown weird possession.
Mm-hmm. So all the accusations and back and forths between the Father Thomas and Mother Superior start happening of, Father Thomas is very much get this girl to the hospital.
She's
a
pregnant. 16-year-old pregnant girl, and when you see her, she is chained to the wall on a dirty mattress in a disgusting, dirty room. And Mother Superior's still like, oh, you don't want to be messing with her and stuff like that. We're doing the right thing here. It's ridiculous.
They really play it, like the nuns really play it like, what? Like,
yeah.
Come on. No, what are you so mad about? Rather than a wee bit more aggressive.
That's the Mother Superior. Maybe. There's another nun in there with them, and she's clearly scared of the girl for good reason that we learn later on.
Father Thomas gets a doctor in to examine her, which, once again, doctor's very blasé about this situation. He's just like, yep, well, the weird part is that she's a virgin.
Yeah,
not that she's chained to the wall in the basement.
I was like, ugh, okay. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, not a great way to say.
I forgot to mention the most ridiculous scene to me is, or thing that happens in general is, when the statues start crying blood, Father Thomas tests the blood. And he finds out that it's human blood, it's O negative, and it's a female, and she's pregnant. And I was like, why are you testing the blood for a pregnancy test? That's such a weird thing to do, to specifically test it for the pregnancy hormone. I just find that really peculiar.
I'm not gonna lie, I found it pretty peculiar that in the 1960s in Northern Ireland, two priests would have that advanced access to blood testing equipment.
Well, look, to be fair,
you do not test if someone's
Yeah, exactly.
pregnant, like by putting blood in water
yeah,
and
yeah,
swirling
exactly.
it about.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give them that if you were sending priests to test this miracle, you would want some kind of test to know if it was blood or not. But you wouldn't want it. Why the type? You don't need to know the blood type. Is it? I suppose maybe that's a consequence of knowing it's human blood, which is fair enough. Pregnancy is way too far. The whole virgin birth thing is ridiculous in this film because it's clearly they had to kind of hammer it in by saying, yeah, he tested blood and then they know it's pregnant. It's just, and then the doctor will say, but she's a virgin, and then they'll be like, oh Jesus, it's just really weird.
It's clearly wanting to lay the groundwork for everything that's coming ahead.
Clumsily.
I think is in a wee bit clumsily.
It's unfortunate that the virgin and pregnancy bit are both handled really weirdly clumsily. But there you go.
So speaking of the pregnancy.
Horrible. Yeah.
The
awful.
birth. One thing I will say is it's either this scene or the scene where they're arguing. Father Thomas and Mother Superior are arguing over the girl is a really nice shot behind Kathleen as no one is looking at her. A hand reaches up from under the bed and just holds her hand for a moment and then goes back under. And it's when you're talking about here are your two different styles of movies, that is really where that style starts to turn, and I found that moment really effective. But man,
just
that
horrible.
birth scene.
The doctor decides that Kathleen's not going to be saved, so they have to perform. They're performing an operation to take the baby out, right? It's just, you don't see anything. It's just a lot of squelching, horrible noises, and bloodstained towels.
You see Kathleen from, the chest upwards. As a result of that scene, I feel that Kathleen's movements were very limited by how that scene was shot. It didn't come across authentic to me, that scene. It was still horrible, but I felt that the way she was moving and the way she had to kind of stay in this frame, really, like she was really still for a person who was getting a child cut out
I see
of
what you
them.
mean. I, to be honest, I found it absolutely disgusting. I was just like,
you're not great with that stuff.
It was
general.
a bit too medical for me. I'm fine with gore, but medical gore is a weird kind of subgenre that I don't like. And I was like, oh my god. Oh.
I knew I'd have to take the hit to watch this scene.
It was
you were probably cowering behind the couch.
Ridiculous. It was just a lot of like wet fabric being slapped on hard surface kind of noises. It was just weirdly horrible. Oh.
So tell us what happens after
Kathleen
the birth.
dies. They find her dead. They start running through the laundry because they hear the sound of the child and stuff. But they find her dead with coins on her eyes, and I don't know if that's actually a
Catholic thing. I don't
think
believe it is.
I was doing a tiny bit of googling around, and it was an ancient Greek thing, which I do know. The ancient Greek thing for the ferryman and all that. Yeah. And they do mention that she speaks ancient Greek to the priests when she's displaying like possessed things. So I was like, I wonder if it's because of the whole ancient Greek thing. Not sure, but and then they start running to try and find the baby, and it gets all kinds of messed up. They basically start going further down into the underbelly of the laundry, and then it all gets, well, what does it get?
It gets very Blair Witch.
It's found footage. I was reminded of Borderlands. Have you seen that? It's the claustrophobia of it down, because they're down in like kind of dirt tunnels underneath the laundry, and it's very dark and very claustrophobic. So I was kind of reminded of that film. I don't think it's done that badly. I think it's all right. You get Father Thomas coming to the realization that eventually, oh crap, maybe this is all a wee bit too genuine for my taste.
Yes, so the climax of the movie takes place underground in these dirt tunnels. And it is important to say that at one point, Father Thomas is led to believe or gives the impression that he was born in a Magdalene laundry, at least for the time being.
He was abandoned as a child.
Yeah, so it's believed that he was born in.
He says he doesn't know which one. He's not. I think he says, "I've just not got around to looking." Basically, Fair enough, I
Yeah,
suppose. You
yeah.
know, won't change who he is as a person now.
Been busy looking at satanic rituals in Greece.
I've
What do you
literally
think?
been all over the world. Yeah.
Not got time to go down to the local registry office. And yeah, it kind of just begins to crescendo in these dirt tunnels. Things escalate very quickly when Father John's face is ripped
Yeah,
off.
Father John comes to a slightly grisly demise.
Quite sudden,
Yeah.
I will say. I didn't actually think it was going to happen at the moment it happened. It just seems to appear out of nowhere, which, credit where credit's due, that's not easy to do in a horror movie like that. A lot of the time, your deaths either are so
foreshadowed,
telegraphable
yeah.
that or they are jump scares. And I don't feel this one tries to be either. It just kind of happens. And I feel that's very fitting for kind of the situation that they've found themselves in. But yeah, the dirt tunnels kind of give way to just all manner of...
They find put the bones of children underneath there and stuff, which is obviously the reason for the ghost children running around. Incidentally, when Father John, I think it's night one, sees the girl at the bottom of the stairs playing with the marionette doll, was that Kathleen? Because it looked like a slightly older girl. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be Kathleen doing some kind of weird projection thing, or if it was a dead child's ghost.
I had that thought as well. And
I honestly don't. I'm not sure either.
I think it's just the unfortunate thing of the brown hair, white robe.
But after Father John's demise, we get some more brilliant Lalor Roddy work where he's just talking to camera now about how he's kind of fucked this one up a little bit, and maybe a good thing to do would be rescue this Kathleen's baby, make slight amends. He blames himself for Father John's death, basically because of his stubbornness and cynicism, which he should never do. He should have remained cynical. It's just unbelievable that he could have stumbled upon this. I mean, what are the chances? I totally support him in being cynical and continue to do so.
Well, you would end up in the same situation as Father Thomas does.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I 100% would, and that's okay because he handles it with grace.
He does, and what does he handle with grace, Donald? His untimely demise. So the movie ends. This is where I was a bit unsure. The movie ends with Father Thomas being killed by a woman with white eyes. Kind of off screen, but the kind of last thing you see is, this woman with white eyes, and she says, "Welcome home." The thing I was unsure about was, is that Mother Superior or is that his mother?
Interesting. I think it's Mother Superior.
I think it was Mother Superior.
Could they be the same woman?
Yeah, that was also the thought.
I don't know. I mean, nuns having babies would probably... I don't know. I don't know if you can be a nun, have a baby, then rise to the rank of Mother Superior without a little bit of a stain of controversy on you. I don't know. I don't know how the church works. I didn't have that thought at all. I did have the thought throughout the movie that every time you see a nun doing something shady, I was always like, which one is that? Because unfortunately, nuns in full-blown habits look pretty much exactly the same if it's fleeting glances. So at the end of the movie, seeing Mother Superior with white eyes, there's another satanic altar down there. I was still like, is Mother Superior evil, or are all of them evil? Because I could never be sure of if she's just going around doing this crazy stuff by herself. Because obviously you get the nun who tips them off about Kathleen, and you get another nun later on who seems very scared of Kathleen and stuff like that, and she gets bitten in the face. Are they all in on it, or is it just one satanic Mother Superior? Don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's odd. And not in a good way. Who's working with Mother Superior and who is kind of just working here?
Do any of the other nuns get names? I can't remember. I mean, the only other nun that's really featured prominently is the one that gets bitten in the face by Kathleen. You see a few others when they test the blood of everyone in the laundry to see if it's someone playing tricks with the tears of blood. But they don't get names, so I was always really confused whether they're all bad uns or not.
Well, according to the Wikipedia page, there's only one other nun in the cast, Sister Maria Louise.
That'll be the one that gets her face bit.
Probably. There's also the one that hits the girl at the start. Yeah, there are just nuns around the place.
Yeah. That is a different one as well, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel that it leaves a bit too much unanswered by the end. I feel with the Magdalene laundries and the reality of the situation and the way the second half of the movie develops, The second half of the movie develops into a very solid horror movie, but only in execution, not in terms of story, not in terms of dealing with its source material. It just turns into a really solidly well shot horror movie. But I can't divorce that from the first half of the movie, which is, I'm not saying not well shot. It is I think the whole movie start to finish is really well made, but the first half definitely addresses a lot more, both in terms of the real Magdalene Laundries and giving hints into both these characters, of the two fathers, as well as it's more the Magdalene Laundry. None of the nuns, even Mother Superior, get any kind of backstory or like investigation. It is more just, it's kind of, the Magdalene Laundry is very much a character in this movie, and I know that is very cliched to say, but it is very much the two fathers and the laundry. She uses all these sparring scenes very well, again, both to build up your curiosity of what is going on in this laundry, as well as filling you in of the real horrors that went into this. And by the end of the movie, I just felt she hadn't answered much at all, and wanted...
She being the director, or...
Yes, sorry, she being the directors. That she wanted that last reveal to be fulfilling enough to justify the second half of that movie, and I just don't feel it does.
I think the movie was okay. Didn't love it. Like maybe Lalor Roddy elevates it to just brush it against like. I think it has problems for me. It felt kind of half-baked in a way. Like they had the good starts of ideas, and then maybe didn't quite, through movie-making restrictions, didn't quite pull them off or exactly develop them enough. When the fathers come to the laundry, I mean, it just feels really rushed right at the beginning. Like literally, they get to laundry, you're presented with awful images, and then minute 9 of the film, they're confronting her about everything that's going on. That doesn't feel like a intro to a movie kind of scene for me. That feels like a halfway through the movie. It just seems a bit odd that, I mean, Magdalene Laundries, I don't know, it might just be my ignorance, I don't know how well known it was to be like not a nice place, but it just seems weird that Father Thomas would come in and they would immediately address, right, this is bullshit, all this stuff that's going on here, and then they'd get the confrontation with Mother Superior. That feels like a kind of Act 2 kind of scene for me, rather than right at the start, because unfortunately after you have that right at the start, they kind of forget about the abuses that are going on in the laundry. Like, you barely see any other women after that. It kind of focuses more on Kathleen, this one case, for like the second and third act of the movie kind of thing. It didn't help the merging the kind of real life horror and this supernatural kind of thing together for me. By addressing it so quickly and not really like giving it time to brew kind of thing, and not really showing us, they show us a couple of scenes where, there's some horrible things going on, but then they're very brief and then they're gone, and you just don't really see much of that again. It just kind of it wasn't a good start for a movie for me in terms of keeping my interest throughout the whole thing. And then, like you say, it's got a big swing halfway through where it turns into a different kind of movie, a possession movie. Ali, do you know my feeling about possession movies in general? Not the biggest fan. I just feel it's been done really well already. And Father John... It's not a bad scene, actually. Father John's like listing things, so he's like, levitation, we've got that. Strength, I'd say so. And I was like, yeah, you could be ticking off everything that goes into that kind of scene in general. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only thing they didn't have was the vomit, but otherwise it's basically that scene, the scene that everyone's seen a million times and parodied a million times. Turning into that kind of film. I mean, initially, Ghost Children, anyway, I don't know. I didn't feel... Yeah. I wasn't horrified. I will admit this. I had to watch this twice because the first time I watched it, I did fall asleep. I do have prior for falling asleep during films if they don't grab me, totally, Jesus. As Ali has experienced in the past.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
sometime around the midpoint when they were running around at night again, it wasn't the first running around at night thing, hearing kids. I'm sure it was the second time. Yeah, I kind of dozed off. So, as much as
Oh
I
man.
like Lalor Roddy's performance in it, and as much as I think that it's a good subject for me to learn about, yeah, it was. I didn't find it entirely chilling. The scares for me, I think we feel slightly differently about it. I thought it was a wee bit kind of YouTube short horror kind of thing. Some of the like changing eye color and loud noises, that kind of stuff. It's all been done so many times before. Like that's the problem. They started off with a really good idea of period authentic 16mm, which I think looks nice, and the audio kind of thing, and a unique setting that I don't believe has been in a horror movie before. But then they could not marry that to a stylish horror movie. They kind of slapped the two kind of things together, which I think is a shame. I don't hate the movie. I think it's okay. Like it's worth a watch. It's quick. What is it? 75 minutes long.
70, yeah, 70 odd minutes long.
It's pretty
76,
short. So
yeah.
I mean, I would say if anyone, I'd say watch it. But just for me,
If you're a
you
if
should
you're
be.
a Lalor
You
Roddy
will be
fan,
after watching
go
it.
watch this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be. You will be after watching this. I'm not gonna lie. He pushes this forward. He does a fantastic job in this, and really, I think he is one of the things that keeps your interest and keeps it going.
No,
Maybe not for you, Donald.
It's because of him that I do think it's an alright movie, and I do think it's worth a watch. I do think it's worth a watch, to be clear. I do think it's worth a watch.
Definitely.
The Mother Superior is also a good actor. I just don't find... She was really evil. and really effective as a...
She was...
Yeah, really effective as a counterpoint to Father Thomas. And she's a good mouthpiece for the actual unfortunate real-life attitude of certain Catholic organizations towards this kind of horrific event, that the world has basically come to the conclusion that it was absolutely horrific, but there's areas of the church that do not look at it like that. So she was really good at delivering that kind of viewpoint to our characters. So I did like her.
For me, she definitely came off. I even got that initial, whoa, like she's evil. Like, she really hits that from the get-go. But, seeing Peter Mullen's Magdalene sisters, reading other tales of what went on in there, it isn't actually that an unrealistic portrayal. Yeah. I think she does not a bad job of justifying her character. Justifying the fact that this woman would be so aggressive and so in your face evil from the get-go. Because she is the head of a horrible place. That does push through. And I think I do get what you're saying, that it's a lot of... Cliches is a harsh term to use.
Fairly
it's a lot of
fairly well-trodden paths, I'd say.
That is a fair judgment, and I feel that this movie shows a lot of promise in terms of like the hand coming out from under the bed. I see what you're meaning by YouTube short.
I didn't mind that so much. I think when I say YouTube short, I mean there is quite. I thought for me there was a few of the scares were child whispers, turn around, they're there, they're not there again, or kind of loud noise with kind of a shape that you can't quite see, cut to black, like that kind of stuff. It's just at this point the best horror movies that you see aren't doing that anymore. It had its day like 10 years ago or whatever, and it's now don't do that. If you know what I mean, like you see that all the time. You see 100 movies released every month that do that kind of thing, so it's not a good way to stand out. So I think the setting and the style is definitely their effort to elevate it above that, but it just doesn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
Just doesn't. What do you think of the descent into Satanism? I was wondering if that was a way to kind of avoid criticisms of exploitation in a way. I mean, because you're presenting the Mother Superior as totally like, no, this laundry's doing you a favor, everything that's going on here. But it turns out that she's like an evil Satanist, literally. I didn't know if it was a way for them to kind of be like, not draw too much ire from like the church or people that might be offended, because because they could say, well, yeah, we did show a lot of this stuff, but also the person that was so evil throughout the evil nun is actually genuinely totally evil and maybe possessed, or maybe a evil spirit or something like that. I don't know. I just found it kind of weird that they would do that. I mean, they've got enough. They already had a ghost story in a creepy setting,
Yeah.
and then it's like, it's Satanists though. But the ghosts and the Satanists, I don't think they're actually linked. I don't know, because there's children being killed on the sites. There's ghosts. Meanwhile, there's a Satanist and a possessed girl. Maybe there's a pregnancy kind of antichrist thing going on there that's been done before. But I don't know. It just seemed weird.
For me, oddly, I got the opposite in terms of how that second half is thematically presented. I feel that they were using evil impregnated within this girl, the complicity of the church to hide it. I felt it was all kind of a big metaphor for the Magdalene laundry.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of it being ultimate evil kind of thing or something like that? Or...
It is a thing that is portrayed on the surface as being good and holy, i.e. the nuns, are just rife with evil, i.e. Satanism. Like, I felt that was... And I'm not saying I think it was greatly presented, those themes by the second half, but that was kind of what I was getting out of it, was this kind of like Kathleen is kind of the Magdalene Laundries itself, the nuns being the Catholic Church, and the complicity of everyone and knowing what's going on. You've got your whistleblower and the person that leaks that to the fathers. I just felt it was a bit on the nose.
There's definitely a thread in this film about the abortion issue in Ireland, because, I mean, you've got literal dead children. You've got a young pregnant girl who's in trouble. At one point, Father John asked the doctor, can you not just perform a C-section on her, because they're talking about Kathleen literally dying to give birth to this child. And he says, that the church won't arrange for that. And that's because C-sections, that is true, the C-sections limit how many times you can give birth, so they actually did not like C-sections being applied to women. So there's little threads about that kind of debate going through, and I think I read somewhere that the premiere of the film coincidentally happened on the day that Ireland voted to repeal that law that had made abortions illegal, which the director was obviously thought was a nice moment.
I think my only other critique was that Father John's involvement in some of the scenes, or lack thereof.
Father John, the cameraman.
Yes. Sorry, I wasn't using his full name. He very much takes the I am the cameraman role in some scenes to a fault, where you are expecting John to have maybe not as much to say as Thomas. There are definitely moments where Father Thomas is, the lead investigator, the one that's taking charge.
Yeah, Father Thomas is, he's definitely top dog. Yeah,
but there are moments where you're like, Father John would definitely have something to say here, and he is just the cameraman.
Yeah, and it's got those classic moments where shit's popping off all over the place, and Father John's carrying the camera, and these films, they have to come up with an inventive way to get around that, because otherwise it is usually a problem. And there was a couple of moments, especially when Kathleen was going totally mental and Father Thomas gets locked in a room with her and he's like, get help, and then Father John's like running to get help, but he's holding the camera the entire time. I mean, it just is the classic suspension of disbelief problem with this genre. It really is. But yeah, I totally agree with you. He was definitely Father John the cameraman at times. He is a total blank slate. He's got this air of, I'm a young naive priest, but after that he's just there to be scared. There to be scared and shoot stuff for us, kind of thing.
With the camera, John does not have a gun. One thing I will say about this movie is I did not like the name.
The Devil's Doorway.
It's so generic, and
I kept forgetting it.
And it has basically nothing to do with the movie. Like, there are...
Who's the Devil's Doorway? Is it the laundry?
Is it
Kathleen?
Catherine's room? Is it... Yeah.
Mother Superior?
Yeah, it's such a generic name, and I feel with... Like, I feel that if you really dug, you could find a great name for this movie.
And it's not scary. It's kind of goofy. The Devil's Doorway.
The Devil's Doorway. Yeah, it's right up there in most generic horror movie titles. But enough from us. You've heard what we think of the movie. Donnie, do you want to hear what other people have to say about the movie?
I'd love to. Do I want to actually?
Too late now. So I went on to IMDb and Amazon to see some user reviews, just to see what people thought.
Get a nice feeling out there. Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah. DJ Mathers gave this movie 1 star.
You're naming and shaming him right off the bat.
Yeah. Hey, if you're putting your name on the internet.
Yeah, I do think we're allowed to do that. So carry on.
Don't worry, my lawyer's next to me. Derek Joffrey Mathers says, "Absolute rubbish." That's the title of this review.
Absolute rubbish. Straight in.
Crap storyline.
I like his directness.
Found footage angle was pointless and dawned terribly. Acting was brink of hilarious. Nothing made sense with the plot. Logic and rationale was left out the script. Cliched expected fright points throughout.
Hey. Got a little bit of a point there. He's got a little bit of a point there, does DJ?
Now, I noticed this last week as well. It seems that you always have one sentence or one point that these reviews you'll agree with, but they're always the worst phrased points of the whole review.
No, I agree with that. It does have cliched horror points, whatever you say.
No, fright points.
Yeah, fright points. I'm going to write down fright points. That's something I'm going to start using. Fright points.
There were too many cliched expected fright points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what he's saying there. I do.
Yeah. Watch with caution. All caps.
Watch with caution sounds like a fucking great recommendation for a horror film. Watch with caution. Watch if you dare.
The Devil's Doorway. No God, No Masters. Also gave it 1 star.
That is some username.
I know.
How old is he, do you think? 15? In school, angrily writing this review on his phone.
54.
Is he?
I don't know.
All right, okay. I thought you'd somehow hacked that detail out of the internet. You're the tech guy.
Yeah, I'm doxing No God, No Masters. He does warn that his review of this movie contains spoilers. The statues are bleeding.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What? 2 out of 7 people found this helpful.
Sorry, what? Wait, what was the star rating?
1.
The statues are bleeding.
The statues are bleeding.
And 2 people were like, oh, that tells me everything I need to know.
Yep.
Right, I don't agree with this guy, so you're wrong already. Your whole thesis about me agreeing with all of them, I don't agree with him.
Sorry, I said at least 1 sentence within, or 1 point within the review. That is just the title. There is no review.
What?
Just says the statues are bleeding.
Oh God.
Oh, sorry. No. Sorry. I my sincerest.
He's walking it back.
Apologies to. Yeah, I know. I had to click extra for no
This will
God,
be edited out.
No Masters. Depends how funny it is.
This is gone.
Oh. Fine, then I'll tell you about David Ferrara's review. If you're sickened by my No Gods, No Masters review, David Ferrara gave this movie 1 star as well.
Okay.
Terrible movie.
Wait,
he says.
Mm-hmm. So is this Amazon?
No, this is IMDb so far.
Oh right, okay, Christ, that's 1 star out of 10.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. David Ferrara says terrible movie.
Yep.
Don't waste your time. I gave up after 15 minutes.
He gave up after all the good stuff. What? What's he talking about?
Yeah.
That's the time you don't give up, I would say.
Yeah, well, you are like the losers in David Ferrara's family. Because he says, I gave up after 15 minutes.
Excuse me, what?
Hey, this is not my review of David Ferrara's family.
Right, okay. This is his review.
David
Ferrara's gives his own family 1 star.
I gave up after 15 minutes, but the losers in our family continued to watch acting like it was a good movie.
What a rude little bastard. Fuck them for liking something. Losers. I'm going to write an angry review on IMDb and mention you.
one from Halloween. This was posted
On Halloween
So
night?
this person-
Watched it on Halloween night?
watched it on well, if they I'm assuming they watched it on Halloween night and felt so strongly about this movie that they had
They had to post their 10-star review immediately.
Sorry, 1 out of 5 on Amazon.
Okay.
Worst film of the decade. Give up now. So
Is that it?
yeah, that's it. That's the whole review.
That person hasn't watched enough films by far.
No. And by the way, this is not a 2020 movie. This came out the same decade as many Adam Sandler movies.
Oh god, I didn't realize. I mean, personally, this film is totally fine for me and did not elicit any kind of strong emotion. I'm clearly in a minority on that, judging by these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly, you're either an idiot or heartless, going from the other end.
Oh dear.
Was it shot anywhere interesting? As in a Magdalene laundry?
It was a former hospital.
Ah.
So sorry, what you want?
Just.
God, all right, fine. I thought the location looked fine.
No, the location did look very appropriate.
God knows where they. I don't know if they just dug a tunnel and shoved Lalor Roddy down it at the end, and we're like, right, run around in here for a bit with a lighter.
Lalo had his own tunnel ready to go.
Oh well. So, other films to watch, obviously, as has been mentioned, the Magdalene Sisters.
Yeah, by the way, not a horror, a very, very harrowing, just to work going in, it's a very harrowing drama.
Yeah, not watch it when you're in the good. Well, I don't know. Watch it when you're in a good mood so you become neutral, or watch it when you're in a bad mood so you really wallow. Whatever you want.
Watch it when you're emotionally prepared to watch it is genuinely what I would say.
Yeah. Ashlyn's got a short film called Childer. I think you say it Childer on YouTube. Did you watch it?
I did not, sorry.
That's all right. Don't need to apologise to me. Just apologise to Ashlyn. That's one review she didn't get.
I'll watch it after.
I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched it. It's not bad. It's just not a bad wee short film. It'll really put you off eating soft-boiled eggs.
I don't eat soft-boiled eggs, so I'll be watching it later.
It does have spooky children in it. So there you go. Another film that I watched this week is Bad Day for the Cut. It's not a horror movie, but it is shot in Northern Ireland, set and shot in Northern Ireland, and it's a really good genre revenge movie. And it's on Netflix, and I would highly recommend anyone watching that. It's about a farmer and his mum living out in the country, and then they get drawn to this whole crazy violent scenario. It's really good, and the director of that is just wrapped on a film called Boys from County Hell, which is about a crew of road workers who try and survive when they accidentally awaken an ancient Irish vampire, which sounds bloody good. I'd like to watch that.
That does sound like a pretty fun watch.
Yeah, it's comedy horror. Thankfully, I don't know if they'd been able to play that totally straight-laced. It might have been a bit weird. But Bad Day for the Cut, it looks really nice, so hopefully that film will be good too.
Oh, sorry, Danny. Yeah, we're getting told to move on. He says that if we're gonna be here at the camping site, we need to have
Paid?
be paid and be camping rather than just sitting in the caravan recording a podcast. We might need to.
Hold on, our caravan is our kingdom. We could do what we want in here, surely.
That's not how laws work, unfortunately. So I think you'll need to start up the old engine, and we'll need to mosey on to our next location.
All right. We're going down south. We're going to continue our Irish journey and see what there is down there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm just going to catch a bit of sleep. You wake me up.
I need you with the roadmap. I don't know where to go.
Nah, you just head down, and I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm just going to... Cool.
Down.
Right. Yep. You'll be fine, honestly. Right.
Okay.
Just a wee snooze. I'll be fine. Bye.
Bye.